Hi, my name is Mimi Enright, and I'm the program manager for the UC Master Gardener program here in Sonoma County. And I'm here to talk to you today about my top 10 favorite California native plants for use in Sonoma County gardens. So why should you consider using California native plants in your garden? Well, for one thing, it's certainly about a sense of place. We live in California, one of the most rich and diverse floristic areas in the entire world, and have developed an amazing array of plant materials that we can use here in Sonoma County in our home gardens. But it's truly the California natives that reflect the climate and the environment that we have here in Sonoma County and are adapted to and perform the best. So I think there's a lot of myths about native plants, and truly you can create a really beautiful garden full of color, flower color, if that's what you're looking for from your garden, with minimal maintenance requirements. And as these native plants are adapted to our local environment, many of them are low water use, which is incredibly important for us, given impacts from climate change and what we expect to be changing amounts of water that we receive in any given year. And the fact that we really need to adapt to drought as a more permanent reality here for us here in Sonoma County. But it's also incredibly important to provide habitat for local flora and fauna. And so not only are we helping preserve native plants that may be going extinct or be threatened in their natural environment, but we're also providing really important food for beneficial insects and pollinators, because these native plants have co-evolved with the local fauna and have co-adapted over the millennia to support each other. The other important thing we need to think about in our home landscapes is we often just ask our landscapes to be pretty, but in fact, our landscapes provide really important ecosystem services. We talked about how important they are in supporting local fauna and insect populations. So they really do help support life. But also our gardens can sequester carbon, clean and manage water, and enrich the soil. And I want to just say that what's incredibly important, again, in that relationship of coevolution of plant and animal is that 90% of insects only eat the plant that they have co-evolved with. And caterpillars are an essential component of a bird's diet. A pair of chickadees, for example, can bring in 30 caterpillars in 27 seconds to feed their hatchlings. So during breeding seasons, birds need a lot of insects to help feed their young. So it's an incredibly important structure to provide plant materials that support the insects that then support the higher levels of animal life that that are so critically in need of that support structure. Okay, so let's talk about my top 10 California native plants for Sonoma County gardeners. So this is Cirxus occidentalis, or Western redbud. It's a smaller deciduous tree, or really it's more shrub-like generally. You usually see it with multiple stems. Has this really beautiful vase-like shape. And then really stunning spring flowering of these magenta pink flowers that are followed by 4 to 6 inch long reddish seed pods that age to a light brown. It has wonderful heart-shaped, 3-inch long heart-shaped leaves that emerge in late winter in a soft pale green color, often tinged a little red, and then turn a beautiful yellow before dropping in the fall. So really has some wonderful multi-season interest in the home garden, and it has a small enough size, just getting generally about 15 feet tall and about the same in width, really appropriate for use in our in smaller home gardens. It's you can plant it in full sun or part shade. It does flower best in full sun. And it is deer resistant, and it can be useful in erosion control if you're putting it on a slope. So there's so many wonderful ceanothus available for us to consider. from ground covers to small to medium to very large shrubs. Ceanothus is known as California lilac, is its common name. These are evergreen shrubs or ground covers. And in this case, I've picked Ceanothus dark star. Wonderful dense shrub with smaller, kind of crinkly dark green leaves. Generally stays only about 4 to 8 feet high, but spreads really wide. But you can keep it managed to 6 to 8 feet high by 6 to 8 feet wide. Ceanothus are happiest in full sun, and they do need good drainage. So if you have heavy clay, you might want to consider mounding up for planting your ceanothus in your garden. And then are really known for their striking dark blue flower clusters in spring. One of the earlier plants to bloom and in the season, so an important source of food for pollinating insects. So ceanothus is a low water use plant, requires little to no water in the summer. In fact, if you overwater it, that can shorten its lifespan. And it's really, really beautiful in use as an informal screen or as a feature shrub in your home landscape. Okay, now my next top favorite is coffeeberry, or Rhamnus californica. It was recently reclassified by the botanist as Frangula californica, but you still may see it in nurseries as Rhamnus californica. Really wonderful evergreen shrubs for use in either full sun or partial shade. So really great for providing some good infrastructure with that evergreen structure in your home garden. Rhamnus are deer resistant and are also appropriate for erosion control, so would also be great on a slope. Not really fussy about soil, and they can tolerate any pruning or shaping that you want to do to them to keep them in a certain size or shape that you're looking for it to serve in your garden. And you can see why it's named coffeeberry. They have these wonderful berries ranging from like a pale pink to reddish to darkening to a blackish brown. The flowers, and those are present in fall and a really important source of food for birds. The flowers are somewhat insignificant. They're white and smaller. You can see them in the upper left-hand picture there on the slide. So they're not really grown for floral performance in the garden, but really for structure in the garden and those wonderful berries that they have in fall. So there's 3 Rhamnus varieties that I wanted to share with you that are more commonly available and found in the nursery trade. The first one on the upper left is Eve Case, which can get really large. It can get up to 8 to 10 feet high and wide, but it's more commonly seen kept in a smaller size of 4 to 6 feet high and wide. The leather leaf on the upper left is smaller than Eve Case and has a much darker green leaf. It stays about 5 to 6 feet high and wide. And on the bottom is Mound San Bruno, which stays slightly lower than Eve Case or leather leaf at as low as 4 feet high to 6 feet high and wide. So really a number of wonderful options for consideration for inclusion in your home garden. Next up, another top favorite of mine in Sonoma County is Ribes speciosum, or fuchsia flowered gooseberry. Much more commonly seen is Ribes sanguineum, which gets much larger and is kind of a vase shape that has these really striking pink flowers, but I don't think as many people are familiar with Ribes speciosum. Wonderful deciduous shrub. Especially it will go deciduous in the summer if you don't water it, if you don't have it on irrigation. Has really charming soft green, almost kind of small oak leaf shaped leaves. You can see those in this picture on the upper right. And then in spring, these wonderful dark magenta pink pendulous flowers. You can see why it gets its name of fuchsia flowered gooseberry, because they look like fuchsia flowers. Really striking in the spring, and it has these arching kind of bending branches. Really great application under an oak tree. I have one in my garden in Cloverdale under an oak tree, and I don't irrigate it. And it goes deciduous it drops all its leaves in the summer, and you worry that you've killed it, but then come spring, reemerges with the leaf growth and the flowering, and you see how tough it can be for use in the home garden. Hope you can think about including it. If it does want to, in your home garden, it does want to it will perform best for you in light shade. So think about adding to your garden if you have an application for it in a shady area. Eriogonum giganteum, or St. Catherine's lace, is one of our larger buckwheats, and buckwheats are also really important structure for helping with food for pollinating insects. St. Catherine's lace is one of the most popular nectar sources, in fact, for many butterflies, especially the California blues and the hair streaks. And quite a few of the butterflies are suffering from dwindling habitats. So if you do have this space to add Eriogonum giganteum, you might want to consider it. It's a really good looking California native, freely branching, but it does get large. That's that giganteum part of the species name. Can get up to 4 to 8 feet high by 6 to 8 feet wide. Has wonderful pinkish white flowers that emerge from in early to late spring, and will persist through summer, and then they mature to a more rust color. The Eriogonums do want full or at least part of the day sun, and really needs very low water. But it's really an easy plant, very drought tolerant. It tolerates hot arid regions like where I live in Cloverdale, or as well as coastal regions with coastal salt spray. But really wonderful addition if you've got the space in your home garden for supporting beneficial and pollinating insects. Okay, next on my top 10 list, salvia species, or our native sages. There's a wide array of sages, from ground covers to shrubs, for considering inclusion in your garden. Sages do prefer full sun. They are deer resistant. Many of them have this wonderful whorl of flowers on a flowering stem, like you see in this upper picture, with that tubular shape that's so important for hummingbirds, adapted to hummingbirds. And the salvia species, the leaves are really highly aromatic. So if you rub the leaves, they have a really distinct smell to the leaves that some people don't like, but that I particularly love. So I wanted to take you through a few salvia species for consideration for inclusion in your home garden. First up is Salvia bee's bliss, which is a wonderful ground cover salvia, stays about 18 inches high, but spreads to 5 feet wide or more. Great representation in the upper picture of how the flowering stems hold up above that foliage. Salvias are a grayish green foliage, and you'll have this wonderful spring profusion of flowers, probably starting about now through early summer. They are deer tolerant, as I talked about, with that flower shape, that tubular flower shape. A real favorite of bees and hummingbirds. And the salvias do want full sun, some decent drainage in the soil, and can tolerate just occasional to little water to thrive in your home garden. Another wonderful salvia ground cover, Salvia spathacea, or hummingbird sage. It's a good indicator for who's going to like to come visit it in that common name. Salvia spathacea is happiest in part shade, but I will say I have it in a full sun western exposure in my garden in Cloverdale, and it's performing just fine. It does spread slowly by underground rhizomes. A single plant might reach up to 4 feet wide, so make sure you're putting it where you're going to be okay with it spreading around in the garden. Its low stays about 1 to 2 feet high, and then in spring, Mine are just starting to bloom up in Cloverdale. You get these 30-inch high stalks of deep rose pink flowers. Really striking, really beautiful, and this really nice, clean, strap-leaved basal foliage on the plant. Also would be a really great application in dry shades, such as under an oak tree, where you what may not be irrigating to maintain your oak health in an optimal fashion. But it really is an extremely tough plant that can go dormant in summer if you're not irrigating it, but can be kept evergreen if you want that effect in your garden with some occasional irrigation. There's so many amazing salvia varieties. Some other salvias that I thought I'd share with you today on the upper left: Salvia mellifera, Cross sonamensis, Dara's choice. Nice evergreen shrub, stays about 3 to 6 feet high and wide. Great bank cover, or in this picture, as you see, is a specimen draping over a wall or over the side of a large pot. You can prune it in late summer to keep it more compact. The leaves are a really beautiful fresh green color with kind of a whitish cast underneath, and have that same wonderful salvia leaf fragrance. Flowers are a lovely blue color and are really showy from about March through May. And again, a great draw. All the salvias are a great draw for hummingbirds. On the upper right is Salvia apiana, really a striking, very silvery leaved salvia variety, kind of lance-shaped leaves that stay close to the ground. So your base plant stays maybe about 2 feet high, and then you get these tall stems up to about 5 feet of the flower stalks with white flowers. Not that many of the salvias are a blue, but Salvia apiana has a white flower in spring, and the bees adore the white blooms on Salvia apiana. You can prune the flower spikes after bloom, prune back the flower stalks after bloom to encourage compactness. Salvias are heat and drought loving. It doesn't really want much summer irrigation, but good drainage is a must. It will be happiest with good drainage. And Salvia apiana is where the foliage is used in smudge sticks. So if you want to make some smudge sticks for use at home, you might want to add a Salvia apiana to your home garden. And then there on the bottom, I've shown Salvia clevelandii, another really wonderful, commonly available salvia, probably the most desirable for its attractive color and form. And again, for that really detectable foliar fragrance. They bloom in May and June. Another hummingbird magnet with those tubular flowers that are held in those whorls from that picture I showed you before, atop a really nicely rounded, like 3 foot by 3 foot shrub base. So wonderful filler in a garden. Does again require really good drainage, or it might get mad at you. So you might want to consider it on a slope where it has better drainage, and also deer and drought resistant. Epilobium, which you might still see in some nursery tags, is Zauschneria. It was also reclassified. It's now Epilobium canum. There are many wonderful epilobiums available for us to use in our home gardens. This is Catalina. There's ground cover versions, and there's varieties of epilobium that might get up to 3 to 4 feet high. This is that taller epilobium, Catalina fuchsia, which with its beautiful grayish, the foliage on the epilobiums has a really wonderful grayish cast, but then they get these bright orange, red, tubular flowers in summer and fall. So this is one of those great natives that helps bust the myth that California natives don't have summer flower color. Really great performer in late summer and fall. There are there's a white variety of epilobium that's more of a ground cover, as well as a pale shell pink one, but they're really most commonly known for their orange red flowers, and really striking addition to the home garden. They look best with occasional to infrequent irrigation in the summer. They are really happy in full sun. Again, happiest with well-drained soil. So if you're in a heavy clay area, you might want to mound up a bit. Another must for supporting hummingbirds in the garden, and really adaptable to average garden conditions, yet also really drought tolerant once established. Another buckwheat, Eriogonum grandrubescens, or red buckwheat. This is actually hails from the Channel Islands off of the Southern California coasts, but performs really well for us up here in Sonoma County. It's another phenomenal butterfly magnet. Blooms from June to October. It has this really wonderful low, dense mound, about 1 feet high by 3 feet wide, of evergreen leaves, and they're this really wonderful spoon shape on the leaf, green above and kind of a woolly with a whitish cast underneath. And then they get these stalks of these brilliant pinkish red blooms from June to October. So also really great floral color, summer color in your garden. Also while providing really, really important habitat support for butterflies. It's would be excellent massed on hillside, dry hillside, as they thrive on neglect and prefer a dry clay soil. Annie's Annuals, if you're familiar with Annie's Annuals, retail nursery down in the East Bay, calls it goof proof, and is also deer resistant. Yarrow. Yarrows are so popular in many of our home gardens, but there are some wonderful native yarrow options. This is Achillea millefolium Sonoma Coast, so it's actually a Sonoma Coast native from collected near Salmon Creek originally. The yarrows are really amazing because their flower head, that's called an umbellifer shape, it almost provides like a landing pad for the insects to land on for pollination. And yarrows are really an incredibly important addition in our home gardens for pollinator support. This does thrive in our hotter climates here in Sonoma County inland. Its flower is a really wonderful creamy white that blooms from early summer through fall. Really easy to grow. Does look better, a little better with some additional water or some afternoon shade. Is considered deer resistant, and yarrows are really low maintenance. You just shear it back when the flowers are done, and it will rebloom for you in the season. And then my last on my top 10 list of favorite native plants for Sonoma County, true favorite of mine, saved the best for last in my opinion. This is Verbena lilacina de la Mina, or purple cedrus island verbena. Really easy plant, beautiful foliage. I think it makes a really wonderful alternative to lavender if you want to consider wanting that affect of that lavender colored flower in the summer, but you want to plant something that's a native plant that's really long lived. Think about adding Verbena lilacina de la Mina to your garden. Really stays really nice in a nice rounded mound shape, about 2 feet high by probably about 1.5 to 2 feet wide. These just stunning lavender blue scented 1-inch flowers in spring and summer. Tolerates full sun. I've got it in full sun in Cloverdale and it's doing just fine, but you can put it in some part shade inland. Super easy, super tough. After it's done a bloom, you grab it, you shear it back, and it's reblooming for you probably in about 4 weeks. So you can get multiple bloom cycles out of it in a single year. Mine are blooming their heads off already. And it really has this striking scent of the flowers. You'll be walking through your garden and you'll just get hit with this beautiful scent, and you'll stop to see where am I smelling this from? And it's Verbena lilacina de la Mina. It's a really stunning, wonderful plant addition, and butterflies and bees adore it. It thrives in a wide range of soils from sandy to clay. It can go extended periods without any water, but a monthly irrigation cycle from late spring through the first rains will keep it looking a little more lush. With that continuous blooming, I do have mine on an irrigation cycle for continuous blooming. And it really can, if you're looking for that more cottagey garden look. It really has that affect. So wonderful addition for our home gardens here in Sonoma County. And I wanted to point you all to, if you want to explore more native plants for consideration for inclusion in your home garden, I wanted to point you to our UC Master Gardener Program of Sonoma County webpage on California natives. Our website is sonomamg.ucanr.edu. And then you can either Google up in the search bar area California natives, or just add /California natives. Lots of great additional information for you on other native plants that are well adapted for our use here in Sonoma County, selected by master gardeners with a wide array of experience in growing plants here in Sonoma County. And certainly hope you'll consider inclusion of some more natives in your home garden.